Hi, so in this video I'm just going to talk about some of the design views when you're talking about software architecture. So architectural views, what you have to think about are what views or perspectives are useful when designing and documenting a system's architecture. What notation should be used for describing the architecture models, and we're going to be ended up drawing a whole bunch of different types of diagrams, and each architectural model only shows one type of view or perspective of the system. It might show how the system is decomposed into modules, or how the processes interact, or the different ways the system components are distributed across a network. So each of these views actually makes sense for telling a specific type of story, and yet the story won't be complete unless you have a representation from each of the types of views. So by having multiple views on the same software architecture, you could actually paint a much richer picture as to what the software is about. So here we're going to talk about the 4+1 view model for the software architecture. So these are the 5 main views that you're going to come across when you're creating software architectures. And I would advise you to create at least one model from each one of the different views, and that's at the minimum when you're creating your system. So the first kind of view that people come across is what you call the logical view, and that's the key abstractions in the system as objects or object classes. So that's like class diagrams, communication diagrams, and sequence diagrams if we're talking UML. And I'm just giving the example from the Unified Multi-Language since that's one of the more popular ones. Again, you could go and find similar type views from RML or SDL or any other modeling language. So logical views are ones that we kind of gotten accustomed to perhaps from your beginning courses like Intro to Programming and computer systems and software design in year 2, where you are more focused on actually building the programs. These are the kinds of diagrams that actually just give you a logical overview of all the kinds of modules that are present inside that diagram. Outside of UML, you can talk about things like ER diagrams and modular block diagrams and all those kinds of things. In the next type of view, that's what you call the process view. Process views show how at runtime the system is composed of interacting processes. So a good example of that is the activity diagram from UML. Things like message sequence charts, also message sequence charts or event traces also show good ideas of process views. The next view is the development view, which shows how the software is decomposed for development. So how are we going to decompose the software to develop it? So sometimes when you're working on a very complex piece of software, it may have, like, say, if running on a Windows machine, several different DLLs and several different class libraries. Perhaps there is a package installer, perhaps there's a specific unpacking thing. There may be several specific subsystems that are to be developed, and you have to capture who's going to be doing that kind of thing, and how you're going to compose that, and how you're going to decompose the software specifically amongst your development team and that kind of thing. And that's a pretty programmer oriented view. From UML, you have the component diagram and the package diagram, which captures that type of view. The physical view shows the system hardware and how software components are distributed across the processes of the system. So that's if you're not abstracting with the hardware, where you're going to deploy the different parts of the system. So when you're talking, like, say, architecting large, for example, you might be running things on multiple computers and that kind of stuff, or multiple types of devices, like some on your mobile phone, some on our web server somewhere out there, things like that. And the deployment diagram actually talks about where those pieces of software are going to physically reside, and how they're distributed that way. The last type of view is one that we've encountered before, which is scenarios. A good example from UML is use cases or user scenarios or user stories from Agile. Scenarios are all about modeling the scenario itself and can give rise to the architectural decomposition as well. So there you have it. Those are the main types of views. I would encourage you to actually try to draw a lot of these views when you're coming up with this software architecture, because again, with all of these models that you create, you can come up with an idea of what's ambiguous with the system, where the holes and gaps in your knowledge, and you can actually effectively communicate it amongst your development team and communicate it back to the stakeholder. So that's it for this video. Join me in the next one, where we're going to get into software architectural patterns. So that has to do with the different kinds of patterns that exist in software architecture. Okay, bye.